Welcome to TradeTheNBA.com. This is John's Reporters for the 30th of November, and we've ended Thanksgiving weekend, and everything was fairly tranquil. I mean, the readings underneath here with the cyan under red, fairly docile. We've been seeing a short-term buyer failure here recently, and that's certainly preventing the breakout into a new high break us into the, well, at least towards that 3650 plus range. And we can see that we've had still power mode 2 rising from a directional standpoint, and contraction here of the magenta and green. What that usually does is when you get the separation is where you get your breakout moves. So it's usually the beginning towards that eventual pop. So it's just a matter of seeing how it goes. We had some positive extremes that developed early on in here, and yet to retrace those. So still have to visit that 3575. So there's potentially, you know, with the court cases and things that are going on, a surprise could certainly take place that would definitely cause a reallocation and move us, well, back easily to the 76% where we're at right now, caught in between that 100 and 76% line. The Morganachis. Now, given that, what we're going to be looking for, obviously, is maintaining of the shakeout rising as long as we have gold continue to move. As soon as that begins to plateau, though, that's when I would be looking for any potential DOC spreads that kind of set up. And that can happen fairly soon. We're not that far off the potential for that. And so with some of this uncertainty, you know, building, we're just going to keep looking for, you know, consistency signs. So at least we have, from a power mode 2 standpoint, a fairly decent correlation to the NASDAQ. It's been much stronger here with its rising shakeout that comparative to what it was to the S&P, at least earlier. And that's a positive. Its shakeout had been, well, considerably less when you look at it from a numeric standpoint, and that was just relative to the strength of it. It just wasn't quite the same. It was sort of lagging and catching back up now, and also pretty much in the identical location from a Morganachi standpoint. They're caught between the 176%. Sort of a neutral, much stronger from a DOC standpoint in the sense that you have green rising as well as red rising, with steel coming from underneath, but not the dramatic drop that we saw from the S&P. So we still have some discrepancies between the S&P and the NASDAQ, but they're starting to even out quite a bit, and that will give us a bit more consistency. From a euro standpoint, of course, the euro breaking out strong as the expected debasement of the US dollar will continue, and this certainly supports it. It's not about growth issue, because certainly in the EU you're not having anything significant. It's about obviously making things more attractive trade-wise, as well as the expectation that the US deficits are just going to be staggering relative to the EU's. So he who spends a little bit less is actually doing better, so to speak. From a gold standpoint, that's been difficulty here for gold in the sense that it's, and we talked about this needing to fill. Oh, let's squeeze this baby. Right back here, this positive extreme, we talked about it from quite a while ago. Right there, just got filled right before the weekend, and the other ones back here had already been filled, so it wasn't critical that those be retested or anything, but it's just important to recognize that eventually that was going to take place. The difficulty here being is that you're just not seeing the inflationary pressures. As long as there's continued lockdowns varying in different parts, it's not going to drive things to a new level. We're looking at Dealcon Paint 2 here, as well as this would be the Power 2. All of which are available on your downloads. It's just the adjustments been making on these literally give us slight changes. What we see, though, is pretty consistent on our 5K chart. We had our previous algo resistance levels, broke through them a little bit, full positive extremes, retested it. At that point, put in a DOC spread, for a short signal and just continued down. And that's where we're seeing the turnaround from that, approaching the 50% mark on that move right there. And that's given an interesting aspect to this, because I talked about it in my renewal notice for the indicators. This broader range of volatility that's going to go. There was a lot of actual legal activity that took place overnight. And I think as that starts to take place and we start to get some of these finalizations, depending on how the rulings and stuff go, you're going to see interplay volatility that's going to continue to manifest itself in pretty good sized ranges. I mean, we're talking going from here 50 all the way down to 3601 within the overnight session. Okay, that's a 50-point move. That's not small. So definitely worth paying attention to. I think it's going to make for some exciting moves. Again, we're always going to be looking for our steel resets, and then when you do have your signal, that relationship play between the orange crossing below, in this particular case, crosses below with the steel finally makes it above. Cyan ending the strength of the downturn at least, but you need to have that orange dip below to get the buy cross. It takes place pretty close to exactly where this, if you look at the numerical standpoint, boom right there, and then by the time you actually get the actual buy signal, you're literally right at the same spot, but you avoid the downward, which is always nice from a drawdown standpoint. So it's just worth noting and seeing how effective that can be from a broader play. But now that the holiday trade, so to speak, as far as Thanksgiving is done, we get somewhat back to normal, and then it will fade off again towards the end of the month. But I think this is going to be quite an interesting December, how things go, particularly in this next coming week here with the legal front. So I think the election still has an impact, simply because people would have to reallocate based on what they think is happening. And of course, that's not about general population, it's about the big movers deciding what their perception on it is and whether it changes anything or not. As always, though, I will be sending out indicators later today so that everyone has them set for the open for the 1st, and we'll continue to rock it out. Should be seeing the ABM update that I did. That will be interesting to have. It will be corresponding to our orange-blue buy candles, and that giving it a little bit more significance to signals that we're used to. As always, though, trade well. We'll talk to you later.